When you first open the app, the start screen welcomes you. Here you can choose which display you'd like to see when the app launches. The start screen won't appear again unless you reactivate it in the settings. You can select either guitar or piano and choose whether you want to look up chords or scales, browse the library, or identify them using the analyzer. For now, I'll select piano and the library for chords. Then tap the Go button and the app will start with your preferences. A new window opens, displaying a piano keyboard with the default setting, C major. You're in library mode. On the left, you'll see the key of the chord. You can scroll the wheel to choose a different one. If you haven't subscribed yet, the option to purchase a subscription will appear. Without a subscription, you can try out all features, except for changing the key. The wheel on the right-hand side lets you select different chords or scales. Turn the wheel to highlight a chord, or if you want an overview, simply click the wheel. A new window will pop up, displaying all available options. The chord list starts with major and minor triads, followed by common seventh chords. If you scroll down, you'll also find diminished, augmented, and power chords. Chords with tensions are in the next rows. You can also switch from chord to scales here, as with the right-hand wheel. I'll stick with the chords for now. Click on a chord to return to the main screen. It will now display the chord you selected. You'll see different voicings available for the selected chord. That means how the notes are arranged. Voicing 0 on the piano shows the chord in its basic position, but a chord can be played in many different ways. The voicings represent common fingering patterns used by pianists. They show how close together or how spread out the notes are on the keyboard, whether it's a closed voicing or an open voicing. This way, the same chord can sound very different. For arpeggios and scales, there are no different voicings on the piano, since the notes are simply repeated across octaves. If you want to switch to the guitar fretboard, simply click the guitar icon in the top left corner. Your selection will carry over, and the app will show you how the chord is commonly played on guitar. Everything I showed you for the piano applies here as well. Just like with piano voicings, the app displays all common fingerings across different frets. But unlike the piano, guitar voicings are also available for arpeggios and scales, so you can play them in different positions on the fretboard. If you click on Arpeg, the app will show you the possible chord separations, also known as broken chords. All notes that belong to the selected chord are displayed across various fret positions. The same applies to scales. Barré chords, also known as bar chords, are shown with a rounded frame. This indicates which strings should be pressed down using just one finger. If you press the yellow play button in the center, the chord currently in view will be played. You can adjust the playback speed by holding and dragging the green slider. If it's set all the way to the left, all notes will play at the same time. You can use the playback function for ear training to help recognize chords and also to practice scales or arpeggios at different speeds. Next to the play button, you'll see the notation of the currently selected chord or scale. Of course, everything works the same way when you switch over to the scales option. Let me show you real quick. Choose the key and select a scale from the overview. As mentioned before, simply click the wheel and all available scales will be displayed. Under Modern Music and Jazz, you'll find all the major, minor, harmonic, and melodic modes, as well as pentatonic, blues, and jazz scales. If you switch to world music, you can explore a variety of scales from around the globe. For example, this is what the flamenco scale sounds like. Another main feature of the app is the analyzer. Of course, this also works for both chords and scales. Simply click the keys you want to identify. Once you've selected all the notes, press the Go button on the left. The app will now analyze the key, which is shown on the left side. On the right side, you'll see how the selected notes correspond to a scale or chord. In this case, scales was selected, and the first result is E-flat pentatonic minor. You can switch between the scales that include these notes and view them. The simplest results are shown first. In general, the results are sorted by complexity, meaning the number of notes included. An orange exclamation mark on the right indicates that the selection is only a partial match. One or more notes are missing from the full scale. If you switch back to library mode while doing this, the app will show you which notes are missing and how the complete scale is correctly played. Here you can see that the analyzed selection, E-flat pentatonic minor, is actually an excerpt from the common minor scale. If you want to start over, simply click the reset button. It works the same way when you switch to guitar and chords. This chord is called D major 7. When you switch from the analyzer to the library with a chord selected, the result stays active, and all the typical voicings for that chord are shown. In the next step, you'll see how this chord is played on the piano. But these notes are also part of another chord. In this example, I analyzed the notes F sharp, C sharp, A, and D. The most obvious result is D major 7. However, the analyzed notes are also an excerpt of B minor 7/9. As mentioned earlier, the exclamation mark indicates that one or more notes are missing for a complete and accurate result. By switching to the library, the app will show which tones are missing. In this case, it's just the B, the root note, that's not included in the selection. In the top right corner, you'll also find a few symbols that are helpful to understand. Let's start with the accidentals. The app automatically adjusts to show whether the selected notes use flats or sharps. In this case, it shows flats, because the scale F major is a flat key. It contains one flat, B flat. If I select a different chord, for example D, it switches to sharps, since D major is a sharp key. But you can also click the button to switch accidentals manually. When the skull icon lights up, as it does here, it indicates an enharmonic equivalence. That might sound a bit technical, but it simply means that certain notes are written differently in theory, even though they sound the same in practice. The correct naming depends on the key context. For example, C sharp is the same as D flat when played, but not in notation. So if the skull appears, just click on the accidentals to toggle and correct the naming. If the skull icon appears with dashed lines, it means that the chord or scale contains either a double sharp or double flat, or that there's no clear assignment to a sharp or flat key. In these cases, the app marks the notation as incorrect or incomplete. Another thing you may have noticed, the notes or fingerings are displayed in different colors. These colors show the relationship between the notes, specifically the intervals. The root note is always shown in the lightest color. You can turn this feature off in the settings if you prefer a uniform display. If you ever get lost while using the app, just click the question mark icon. There you'll find a quick overview of everything I've just walked you through. Now let me show you the menu options. Let's start at the top left and move to the right. You can choose between English or German as your language. You can also set whether you're a right-handed or left-handed guitar player. Next, you can decide whether to display all chords and scales or limit the view to just the basics, showing only the most common chords and scales. There's also an About section with all the contributors. Right next to it, you'll find a contact form in case you have any questions or feedback. Moving on, to the left, you can rate the app, return to the start screen and adjust your default settings. You can also manage your subscription. This button will redirect you to your App Store's subscription settings. On the right-hand side, you'll find a few settings that control the general display of the notes. If you set Start Screen to On, the start screen will appear every time you open the app, asking for your preferences. You can also set note names to off if you prefer not to see them. In that case, the fingerings on the keyboard or strings will be shown as empty circles only. You can also choose to show all unused note names by setting Hide Unused Note Names to off. And if you prefer a cleaner look, you can hide the corresponding notes, which are normally shown across the entire fretboard and keyboard. As mentioned earlier, you can also turn the colored intervals off, although I think it's helpful to leave them on. Last but not least, you might be wondering about the checkerboard symbol. It's the third and final display option, alongside guitar strings and piano keyboard, a great tool for analysis and theory. If you click on the checkerboard symbol, an overview of all notes will open. It is particularly useful for comparing chords and scales, as well as for recognizing intervals and understanding their functions. Here's a simple example. Changing from C major to C minor only changes one note, the third. If I then choose a seventh chord, one note is added, and with tensions, even more notes are added step by step. Finally, here are two more tips for users of the mobile version. There's an additional button that lets you switch between the player and the note display. Also, there is no separate button for arpeggios, but you can toggle between chords and arpeggios with a long press. I hope you enjoyed the video. Keep making music and find your tune.